This week in Idaho, the Education Board bans DEI, Risch fights Biden's plan to breach the dams on the Snake River, a fight at the Idaho Supreme Court over land use, and so much more. This is the Yokel Idaho Midweek Report, where we give you a quick overview of the news in Idaho for the last week. Hope you all had a Merry Christmas. I certainly did. Happy New Year's. And starting with our first story on that, the Idaho State Board of Education unanimously approved a resolution on December 18th, 2024, to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion, or as it's otherwise known, DEI offices, and policies from public colleges and universities. Specifically looking at the resolution, the decision requires institutions to ensure that no student resource centers serve students based on DEI ideology, and prohibits the use of personal identity characteristics in administrations and hiring process. The resolution also bans requiring students or employees to declare their gender identity or pronouns. For those that haven't been following it very closely, or if this is your first time with us, in anticipation of this decision, Boise State University had already closed its Student Equity Center and Gender Equity Center in late November. As for the University of Idaho, they were waiting the board's vote before making any major changes. But in conclusion, with the new policy set to be implemented by June 30th of 2025, it aims to maintain the quality of opportunity for all students, while restructuring support services to be less decided by gender or race. And speaking of sweeping things that affects all of Idaho, our U.S. Senator Jim Risch has demanded that the Biden administration halt a last-minute attempt to breach the lower river dams. Specifically, joined by fellow Republican senators from Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana, Risch sent a letter to the Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. In it, they expressed deep concerns over the exclusion of key stakeholders, namely Idaho, from the decision-making process. The senator argued that the Columbia River system is vital to the Pacific Northwest, providing essential benefits such as energy production, agricultural support, and transportation, all of those very warranted. They emphasized the need for transparent, collaborative, and scientific-based approaches that include input from all affected parties and industries. Moving forward with this story, Risch and his colleagues opposed the reopening of the 2020 Environmental Impact Statement, which concluded that dam breaching was unnecessary and could jeopardize regional electricity reliability. They reminded the administration that only Congress has the authority to remove these dams. And going from the broad and going in a little bit closer, and specifically here in Canyon County, is embroiled in a legal battle over the rezoning of 145 acres from agriculture to light industrial use. The case, now headed to the Idaho Supreme Court, pits local agricultural interests against developing plans. Looking at the legal case, Ron Almero, John Hoodley, and Georgia Crookham are challenging a 2023 decision by the County Board of Commissioners to approve the rezoning. The dispute centers on the Greenleaf and Wilder areas, known for vegetable seed production. The petitioners argue that the rezoning threatens the agricultural land and fails to follow proper procedure. However, this initial judicial review was unsuccessful, with Judge Brett Whiting ruling that they lacked standing to bring the case. Moving forward, their appeal to the Idaho Supreme Court seeks to establish the petitioners' rights to challenge land use decisions. They hope to ensure government accountability and protect agricultural interests in one of Idaho's and the world's top seed-producing regions. And speaking of one of Idaho's special processes, Idaho's initiative process, once hailed as a tool of democracy, is starting to show some flaws. Colt Benton, in a recent editorial, pointed out 5 flaws, the first of those being voters consistently reject initiatives, with a 70% fail rate compared to the 75% approval of legislative proposals. The second being that the process disproportionately represents populated areas, giving Ada County residents 46% more influence than their legislative representatives. And third, taxpayers bear the burden of the expensive ballot measures, costing over $4.2 billion for failed initiatives. And 4, out-of-state influence dominates with them, with recent elections seeing millions pouring in from external sources. And last one is that political opponents weaponize the process, using it to undermine the state's conservative mandate and forcing Republicans to expend resources fighting liberal policies. But as for what all that means for you, these flaws are challenging the effectiveness and fairness of Idaho's initiative system, raising questions about its role in the state's democratic process, which you would think for something that allows voting it would be, but there again, usually most things are nuanced, and in this day and age, many things are gray. And if you enjoyed that first part of the Midweek Report, do us a favor and hit the like button on YouTube, Rumble, or Twitter. It helps us reach more folks who love Idaho just like you. And speaking of worrying things, and up north, Idaho's first case of chronic wasting disease, or CWD, which we reported on some, in a captive elk facility has been confirmed in Madison County. The case, affecting a bull elk, part of the group imported from Alberta, Canada, in March of 2023, died at the facility, prompting routine testing. This discovery comes after CWD was first detected in a wild deer in Idaho in 2021, followed by a wild elk in 2022. All those, if I remember correctly, we've reported on. The Idaho State Department of Agriculture, or ISDA, has placed the remaining elk from 2023's shipment under quarantine to prevent further spreading. This development raises some obvious concerns about the potential impact on Idaho's elk population and the effectiveness of current import regulations, specifically when we're trying to keep that not coming over here. But for those that aren't familiar with exactly what CWD is, it is a fatal neurological disease affecting cervids. It has no known cure and poses a significant threat to deer, elk, and moose populations. If you want the thing of like nightmare feel, this disease is it. But moving forward, while there's no evidence of CWD affecting animals, health officials advise against consuming meat from affected animals. And coming from the north and back down to the valley, Boise City Council narrowly approved a controversial wage hike for elected officials this week. The proposal, introduced by Council member Jimmy Halliburton, passed with a 3-3 tie, broken by Mayor Lauren McLean. The plan includes a 9% increase in 2026, 4% in 2027, and 3% annually through 2031. This will raise the council members' salaries from $28,609 to $31,183 in 2026, and the mayor's pay from $157,509 to $171,194. As for Halliburton's arguments for this, he argued that the increases are necessary to keep salaries aligned with the cost of living and to ensure sustainability of those positions. The decision came after a previous proposal, including one with a miscommunicated 12.8% raise, which was withdrawn. But moving forward, Mayor Lauren McLean supported the motion. As you can guess, she voted for it, citing its organizational planning approach. The wage hike has obviously sparked debate about appropriate compensation for Boise's elected officials, especially in the economic times we're living in. And staying with the controversy and going over to Eastern Idaho State University, USU, is under scrutiny for allegedly mishandling $853,700 in state funds intended for a forensic pathology center. Specifically on the issue, it began with State Senator Glenita Zeiderfeld, a Republican from Twin Falls, occurring that the university of misappropriating the money, which was part of a $900,000 allocated for a new defunct East Idaho Forensic Pathology Center project. The project, initially planned to be built on ISU's campus and operated by Bannock County, aimed to address regional needs and provide educational opportunities. However, it fell through when Bannock County commissioners voted to end their involvement, citing concerns about construction and operational costs. ISU transferred the remaining funds to Bannock County in April of 2023, which the county partially used to OTSPI-related expenses. The university has acknowledged its oversight and is taking steps to rectify the situation by requesting the return of unused funds. But moving forward, Senator Zeiderfeld is calling for an investigation, immediate return of the funds to the state general fund, and a legislative audit of the one-time appropriations. And speaking of big money, and a little bit of a better way, and here in the Treasure Valley, in a bid to accommodate a potential new Costco wholesale, Meridian is considering a significant rezoning effort. Apex Zenith Project, part of Brighton Corp's Pinnacle community, is seeking to rezone 71.44 acres from residential to commercial use. As for what that Costco would look like, this change would pave the way for a 161,319 square foot Costco store with 908 parking stalls and a fueling station. The proposed site, located at the southeast corner of Lake Hazel and Meridian Roads, is currently owned by DWT Investments. While Costco hasn't formally applied for the project, the bid documents suggest a potential 2026 opening. If approved, this would be the fourth Costco in the Boise Treasure Valley area, following locations on Cole Road in Nampa and North Meridian. The rezoning application is scheduled for review by the Meridian's Planning and Zoning Commission, making a crucial step in the city's commercial development and the future of a possible new Costco. Which, if you didn't know if there was a Costco going in the Treasure Valley or many of the other stories we've talked about, please don't hesitate to share this episode. Your shares help us spread the word about our beautiful state. And speaking of things out west from Boise, over in Ada County, its commissioners recently adopted an Agricultural Protection Act, or APA, ordinance, following state legislation aimed at preserving farmland. Specifically for how this is all working out, the volunteer program allows farmers to secure their land for 20 years against future development. However, local agricultural landowners expressed some concerns during a public meeting about the long-term implications of the ordinance. As for what that looked like, farmers like Patrick Williamson voiced apprehension about being locked into a 20-year agreement, citing the need for flexibility in farm operations. The ordinance includes incentives for farmers to maintain their land, but some feel these aren't sufficient. The commissioners added a provision requiring staff to contact landowners 15 months before the 20-year period ends to discuss continuing the APA designation. This addition aims to address concerns about long-term commitments while still providing a mechanism for agricultural land preservation in an area like the Treasure Valley, which is rapidly growing. And speaking of ag, one of our big exports here in Idaho, Lamb Weston, the frozen potato production giant, announced a major leadership change, which, as you can guess, has had some effects here in Idaho. CEO Tom Werner, who held the position for over 8 years, is stepping down. Michael J. Smith, the company's current COO, will take the helm on January 3rd, 2025. Now, obviously, like me, I don't know too much about this, so adding some context, this shakeup comes on the heels of pressure from activist investor JANA Partners, which recently acquired a 5% stake in the company. JANA has been pushing for leadership changes or a partial sale of Lamb Weston. Despite the company's claims that this transition is part of a long-term succession plan, the timing raises some eyebrows. The announcement coincides with the disappointing financial results, including surprising second quarter losses and reduced fiscal 2025 guidance. But moving forward, the markets reacted swiftly, with Lamb Weston stock plummeting nearly 20% in the pre-market trading. As Werner prepares to hand over the reins, the questions are lingering a bit about the company's future direction and whether the change will satisfy JANA's demand for a significant overhaul. And speaking of a place that's out there in a ton of fields, but is definitely on the cutting edge and adds a lot to our economy, the Idaho National Laboratory, or INEL, celebrated its 75th anniversary, marking decades of scientific innovation and economic improvement in eastern Idaho. Specifically, for those of you that might be new to the state, it was originally a military testing facility. INEL has then evolved into the leading center for nuclear energy research and development. As for what the future holds, Director John Wagner envisions continued growth, with plans to hire 500 to 1,000 new staff annually in the coming year. INEL's future focus is on expanding research beyond nuclear energy into areas like cybersecurity, grid resilience, and artificial intelligence. The lab is constructing new facilities, including the sample preparation laboratory, and retrofitting existing structures for microreactor experiments. With an annual economic impact of $3.5 billion here in Idaho, INEL plays a crucial role in the region's development. The laboratory's commitment to STEM education and community engagement hopefully ensures a brighter future for both the facility and eastern Idaho. And speaking of government institutions, and one of them that isn't doing so well, specifically with its building, in 2022, an unexpected flood ravaged the Idaho Transportation Department, or ITD's headquarters in Boise, forcing a hasty evacuation. The decades-old Philip E. Batten building at State Street has stood empty since. Its fate has been hanging in the balance there a little bit. But initially it was slated for sale and redevelopment. The 44-acre riverfront property became a political hot potato in 2024, which is an understatement. In a dramatic late-night session, legislatures narrowly killed the $52 million sale, instead allocating $32.5 million for repairs. As for recently, a 200-page estimated report by the CSHQA, don't know what that stands for, has thrown a wrench in the works. The cost to restore the building to minimum standards could reach $64.5 million, with additional upgrades pushing it closer to about $70 million. This revelation sets the stage for a heated budget discussion in the 2025 legislative session, which is just around the corner here in January. Speaker Mike Moyle expressed confusion over the high cost of renovation, suggesting that building anew might be more cost-effective. As the saga continues, the future of ITD's waterlogged headquarters remains uncertain, but definitely promising more twists in the tale of bureaucratic intrigue or, in some ways, insanity. Which, if you made it to this point in the Midweek report, you probably love Idaho, and you've probably found the content we're talking about interesting. Make sure to subscribe or follow us so you don't miss any of our future episodes of the Midweek report or any of our other content. And as we come into the home stretch here, we head over to eastern Idaho, where a news outlet found itself embroiled in a defamation trial, raising some troubling concerns for Idaho's journalists. Despite efforts to protect source confidentiality, Eastern Idaho's News was compelled to release a recorded conversation between their reporter and a source. The recording was then played in open court during a 4-day trial. Now, as for what that means, this incident has raised some concerns about Idaho's shield laws, which would protect journalists from being forced to disclose confidential information. The case stemmed from a 2022 article about dismissed embezzlement charges, where an attorney's quote led to a defamation lawsuit. The news outlet's editors testified about the article's reach, potentially influencing damage calculations. The situation has sparked some concern among media outlets, as it shows there may be some serious vulnerability for journalistic privileges in Idaho. For their part, and I didn't even know this existed, the Idaho Press Club is now prioritizing the establishment of shield laws to safeguard the vital relationship between journalists and their sources. And getting out of the drama here, and something that should be there for a little bit longer, the Gold Star Christmas tree stands tall in the Idaho Capitol Rotunda, a pageant tribute to fallen heroes. Created by Anna Workman, the tree features 86 handmade ceramic ornaments, each bearing the image of an Idaho soldier, sailor, or airman who made the ultimate sacrifice since 9/11. Amidst the festive decorations adoring the State House, this hero tree serves as a solemn reminder of the human cost of freedom. For the 86 Idaho families, Christmas brings a mix of reflection and remembrance. The tree, hosted by the Star Garnet chapter of America Gold Star Mothers, invites visitors to pause and honor those brave individuals. Each ornament tells a story of sacrifice, reminding us of the profound gift these heroes and their families have given our nation, mirroring the meaning of Christmas being that Christ's birth who gave the greatest sacrifice for us. As the Capitol bustles with holiday cheer, the Golden Star Christmas tree stands as a beacon of gratitude and remembrance, encouraging all who see it to live as Americans worthy of such a sacrifice. And talking about soldiers, but not quite in the same way, but something that might be a little bit more fun after that reverence story, Soldier Mountain, Idaho is buzzing with excitement as it prepares to host the U.S. Ski and Snowboarding Slopes training. The partnership marks a significant milestone for the small resort, known for its stunning terrain and community spirit. But looking at the training there, athletes will train on 2 newly constructed 50-foot jumps, crafted by park builder Charles Beckinsale. The training facility will not only enhance the athlete's skill, but also provide an opportunity for local residents to witness elite performances up close. General Manager David Adlin expressed enthusiasm about this collaboration, stating it is a rare chance for a family-owned ski area to partner with such a prestigious organization. As the athletes gear up for the training session in December here, Soldier Mountain's upgraded snow capabilities will ensure optimal conditions. The initiative promises to elevate the resort's profile while fostering a deeper connection between world-class athletes and the local community, which here at Local Idaho, we love local. And speaking of local and going back to Boise, in the heart of it, a sweet story began in 1901 when T.O. Smith, a journeyman candy maker, started crafting chocolates in his garage. Armed with nothing more than passion and a shoebox, he sold hand-dipped chocolates door to door, laying the foundations for what would become a beloved Idaho institution. By 1909, Smith's dream grew into a modern factory at 412 South 8th Street, featuring innovative amenities like skylights and a welfare room for employees. The company's most iconic creation, the Idaho Spud Bar, emerged in 1918, a marshmallow-centered chocolate bar that would become a regional favorite. I have to say it is. It's very good. Anytime you take marshmallows and chocolate and put them together, they're pretty good. But coming to the present, through the generations, the Idaho Candy Company has remained true to its roots. The Wagner family now owns the business, continuing to produce over 50 candy varieties, preserving the early 1900s equipment. From selling chocolates out of shoeboxes to creating university-themed bars, the family-owned company continues to sweeten Idaho's story and the holiday season. And with that sweet note, I'm going to have to leave you here. Thank you for listening to the entire report. I sincerely hope you found it enjoyable and valuable. If you like the Midweek report, make sure to check out our other content. We're working hard on that, and especially with the new year, we'll have some new stuff for you there. Also, if we missed any important points or provided incorrect information, please feel free to reach out to us via email or on Twitter by tweeting us at LocalYokelIdaho. With the small team we have, we're not able to cover everything, but we do our best to cover the most interesting and important stories. Thank you for your continued support and assistance. That's all for now, and I wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Godspeed.